Welcome back to Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. After criticizing the Pope online this week, President Trump told reporters that he supports the gospel. The two leaders are at odds over the ongoing war in Iran, which Pope Leo describes as unjust. The president is refusing to walk back his comments criticizing the Pope. He did soften his tone while leaving the White House Thursday. Vice President JD Vance, who converted to Catholicism 6 years ago, also weighed in, offering this advice to the leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo, meanwhile continuing to deliver his message of peace.
Apologize? No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong.
I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology.
Woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain.
The president has since deleted this controversial AI-generated image many think depicting him as Jesus. It received pushback from Republicans and Democrats. He posted this image of him with Jesus by his side. The president insists that the first image was meant to display him as a doctor. Joining us is Sarakshi Rai, a managing editor with our media partners at The Hill. Sarakshi, welcome back to Capitol Review.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We're always glad to have you. Let's talk about the back and forth between President Trump and Pope Leo. It certainly gained attention worldwide and here at home. What's been the reaction?
That's right. You know, we're hearing from world leaders, including Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who's been saying that, you know, the president should kind of lay off the Pope a little bit. But, you know, Pope Leo, who is the first U.S.-born Pope, you know, has questioned the Trump's approach to immigration. He's questioned his moves with the war in Iran. He also kind of said something that was a veiled statement, you know, blasting the president, saying, you know, perhaps that lots of leaders are spending billions of wars, and the world is being ravaged by a handful of tyrants. Now, this comes, obviously, he didn't mention the president by name, but this comes amid this back and forth that the Pope and Trump have been having. Now, President Trump was even asked about his exchange with Pope Leo, and he was like, he has the right to disagree with Pope Leo, and kind of stood his ground there. So really, you know, we've seen this spate of Truth Social posts as well from the president, where he's really kind of going after the Pope, and quite interesting, given that some in his base do definitely feel like the president should kind of, you know, apologize to the Pope and not take it any further.
Well, the president said that he doesn't feel he needs to apologize, but some would say that Pope Leo has gone farther than previous popes who usually just call for peace and stay in that lane. Again, Pope Leo has openly criticized the U.S., and so that's a little bit different than in years past.
That's right. You know, the Pope had voiced his concern about President Trump's threat that a whole civilization will die if Iran did not agree to the U.S. demands to end the war and open the Strait of Hormuz. And really, you know, he's also kind of criticized leaders who turn a blind eye to the fact that billions of dollars are spent on killing and devastation. So the Pope really kind of sending this message that perhaps, you know, leaders should focus less on war and more on peace, but in a way that hasn't gone down very well with President Trump. You know, the Pope has also condemned this endless cycle of destabilization and death as well. And this is coming as he's kind of on a trip around Africa right now. But, you know, yes, a lot saying that the Pope may be, you know, kind of pushing the envelope a bit in terms of his messaging. JD Vance said that, and Tom Homan have said that the Pope should kind of, you know, not interfere in matters of foreign policy as well.
All right, Sarakshi Rai, thank you so very much for joining us.